Hello guys, Dr. Paracetamol there, and today, as always, we have the new infos about the new units that are about to be released on CN, so we finally have the numbers. I think there are still infos that are missing, but I still be able to give a little analysis on the new units regardless. So let's start with the 5 stars. The first one is Jew, which is the welfare unit, and it's a besieger sniper. There's not a lot of 5-star besiegers, I believe. I think there's Erato and Tardiphons. I'm not sure if there's others. Anyway, these are the stats, the redeployment time. Of course, it's 80 seconds because it's a welfare unit. The cost, the attack interval, potential, blah, 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 blah. Trait attacks the heaviest, of course. Talent 1. When dealing lethal damage, leaves the enemy with 1 HP and inflict critically wounded, gives +2 SP to the attacker when killed. So this is a bit like Saga, right? It's been a while since we last had a critical wounding operator. I think it was the cat. And we only have Saga and the cat so far. So it really takes me back. But, I mean, it's an SP battery and it's range. So it can have some applications for new players. As always, I'm always analyzing welfare units through the eye of a new player, because most welfare units, I believe, are not supposed to be played for advanced players, and it's mostly for new players. And this one, for a new player, having an SP battery, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. There's nothing wrong with this. Skill 1 is auto recovery, auto activation. Next attack deals 250% attack as physical damage, will not target enemies with HP above half, and can store up to 2 charges. So it's a bit weird, because unless you are one-shotting the enemy, it will not work with the talent 1. So it's kind of weird, like, not gonna lie, but 250% is alright damage. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why it's not the opposite. Like, okay, so it has 0 initial SP, 8 SP cost. Okay. Second skill is auto recovery, manual activation, 25 initial SP, 40 SP cost, lasts 30 seconds. Attack plus 100%, attacks 1 additional target. When the skill is active, deals 100% of attack as additional physical damage only once to enemies with an attack range whose HP is below half. This damage has a brief delay. Each enemy can only take 1 instance of additional physical damage. So plus attack, attacks 2 targets, and deal an instance of damage to enemies that have less than half HP. So this skill actually works much better than the S1, so I'm not sure why the S1 is like that, but anyway, this seems okay. Again, this is the kind of unit that is perfectly fine if you're starting out, or if you're like in your mid-game or something. I don't think this is a unit that is worth upgrading for an advanced player, because I don't see anything here. I see damage and that's it. Critically wounded and SP battery, yeah, sure, but would you really want to recruit a sniper just to have an SP battery? Maybe, but I'm not sure. Like, there are so many good snipers in IS, most notably, like, you have Aceto, you have Whistledale, you have Rosmontis, you have Lemwen. Yeah, it's kind of hard to justify, so I'm not sure. We would have to test this. I think in regular stages or in stages where there are, for example, Ling enemies, it could be okay, but would you really want to recruit this over, I don't know, like, for example, a blue poison that is being boosted by Archetto? I'm not sure. Would you really want to recruit this over, for example, Grey Altar? I'm not sure. I don't know, maybe I'm completely wrong, and a 5-star SP battery, so a unit that only costs 2 hope that is also an SP battery, is good enough. I can see the vision there. Maybe I'm completely wrong and this is actually pretty busted, but I really don't think so. Like, it's alright. This unit is not bad, and it's a trend with basically all new welfare units, besides maybe the last one in the TT event, with welfare units that are actually okay. This unit is actually okay, but in IS you don't want okay units, you want good units, and I don't think this unit is good enough, but we'll see. So next we have Taraxacum. Who the fuck thought about this name? I don't know. So this is a Watchman Medic. So you might be wondering, what the fuck is a Watchman Medic? So this is the trait. It restores the HP of allies, can take off. So basically his skills allow him to take off. So you can pretty much think of him as a Sky Ranger Medic, quote unquote. So the attack interval is basically the same as a single target medic, and he costs 18 to deploy. Okay, sure. So talent 1, allied units taking off within attack range gain plus 10% sanctuary and block plus 1. So block plus 1 when you take off. That is certainly interesting. I can't think of a single stage where this is relevant, honestly. Sky Rangers being able to block aerial units is already a pretty fringe application. Like, you don't recruit Sky Rangers because you think to yourself, oh, I want to block aerial units. No, nobody does that. You recruit Sky Rangers because, well, Contrail is actually a pretty good unit, a pretty good specialist, and you already have Ethan and you don't think you need Jay, nor Gravel. So that's when you recruit Contrail, but that's about it. You don't recruit Contrail because you want to block aerial units. So I don't know, block +1 seems pretty fringe. Sanctuary, the thing is, again, having Sanctuary on an ally that is taking off, that is to say an ally that is already basically invincible except that he can be attacked by aerial enemy units. But most of the time, if your ally can be attacked by aerial enemy units, either the healing is gonna be enough or he's gonna get one-shotted, and I don't think Sanctuary is gonna matter at all, particularly 10%. Like, I think this talent is completely useless, but okay. The thing is, we still don't have the 6-star Sky Ranger, so I don't know. I haven't even taken a look at the skills, and I'm pretty sure my analysis will be, this could be an interesting archetype once we get the 6-star Sky Ranger. Like, the 6-star Sky Ranger and the 6-star Watchman Medic could work well together, and I want to emphasize on could. There's absolutely nothing certain about this, but they seem to be, like, Watchman Medics seem to be buffing Sky Rangers, or any ally that takes off, but so far it's basically only Sky Rangers. There's also the new Sniper archetype, but there's only one 5-star, so I don't know. Alright, anyway, skill 1 is takes off, attack interval reduces greatly, each time restore 60% of attack as HP to one random injured allied units within attack range. Okay, pretty basic stuff. Only healing 60% is something, that's pretty weird. 30 initial SP, 55 SP cost, Jesus. 45 seconds. Skill 2, auto recovery, manual activation, takes off, attack plus 120%, can additionally heal one operator who has taken off. When healing the target, 2 allied units surrounding the target receive healing equal to 50% of attack. For now, this archetype isn't really useful. Like, the only interesting point about this is that this unit can't get clapped as long as the skill is activated, unless there are enemy aerial units. But other than that, this unit is basically invincible and you have a quote-unquote reliable source of healing. But the thing is, there are other reliable sources of healing. For example, Monster that increases her own max HP is reliable healing. Calcit with Alpha Module that has one more healing tile range is also pretty much reliable. So yeah, I don't think this is very interesting. Again, we might have to look for the 6-star Watchman Medic. Maybe this is much better than the 5-star, because this one I'm pretty sure is pretty much never gonna get used. Like, what do you need this for? Like, the SP costs are pretty high. Actually, 20 initial SP, 35 SP cost, 25 seconds. This is okay, but like, do you really want to recruit a 5-star medic that can only do that when you have the options to, for example, I don't know, recruit Silence that can also heal from the distance, or you could recruit Telopsis that can also recover SP, or you could recruit Warfarin that can also boost. A 5-star medic has to compete with those three, basically. He has to compete with Silence that can heal in AoE from the distance, he has to compete with Warfarin that can buff, and he has to compete with Telopsis that can recover SP. I don't know, is a pseudo invincibility good enough to compete with them? I don't think so. Honestly, I don't think so. Maybe I'm completely wrong and this is absolutely broken in some cases, but I really don't think so. Again, this is the kind of operator that is very interesting, not because of the operator itself, but because it gives us a preview of what the 6-star of the archetype could do. If the 6-star also have additional things, like for example buffs or this kind of stuff, right? Because this unit absolutely does nothing. The only thing he can do is give 10% Sanctuary, which is basically useless. Maybe the 6-star can buff some other things, we will have to see, but the 5-star is really not that interesting. I don't think you want to recruit him in any case in IS like that. There are so many good 5-star medics that I don't think this one is relevant enough. Again, recruiting a medic only because he can heal and only is in single target, because again, the S2 only heals one operator, it only heals a second one only if this one is taking off. So it's a very, very fringe application for now. We really need the 6-star Sky Ranger to see if this is good enough, but for now, this is the fringest application I've ever seen. Alright, on to the main event, Chen the Third, or whatever the fuck you want to call her now. So this is a 6-star arts fighter, so the 4th 6-star arts fighter in the game. So these are the stats. Talent 1, attack plus 13%, attack speed plus 13, attacks become weakness damage when dealing physical or arts damage, damage type change based on target's defense and resistance. Interesting, so it's a bit like Kyobe, I assume. I'm not sure exactly what this means. I assume this is a bit like Kyobe, so the higher the defense and resistance, and the higher she can deal damage or something. So already a very, very powerful talent. Talent 2 is when not being damaged, recovers a random amount of HP every 7 seconds. That's pretty weird. Random amount? Why is it random? Equal to 30% to 160% of attack. Okay, she heals a percentage of her attack. So that's between like 200 and 1000? That's a huge gap. That's an extremely huge gap. Between 200 and 1000 HP every 7 seconds. Okay, so this sure increase her survivability, which usually Artsguard want, right? But I'm not sure this was a right decision. Like, why is it 200 to 1000? Why is it not, for example, 500 reliable every 7 seconds. This would have made more sense. I really hate this kind of RNG, particularly if it goes from 200 to 1000. Like, what the fuck? Okay, anyway. And dodges the next physical or arts damage. Okay, skill 1 is auto recovery, manual activation. Okay, attack plus 120%, attacks 2 times consecutively, attacks disable the enemy special ability until the skill ends. So this is silence. Attack plus 120% is alright. So it has 10 initial SP, 20 SP cost, and lasts 18 seconds. Alright, so this is not that interesting. I guess it's okay for new players who want to tackle, for example, the stage with the exploding spiders, right, in chapter 4. But NIS, this will probably never gonna be relevant. I don't think there's enough stages where the silence is gonna be relevant, particularly if there's no attack range increase or this kind of stuff. But anyway, skill 2 is where the fun starts. So it's auto recovery, manual activation, 15 initial SP, 20 SP cost. That's really not a huge difference. That's only 5. Lasts 6 seconds, but you're gonna see that it doesn't last 6 seconds. Launches 10 slashes to the nearest enemy. Each slash deals 480% of attack as arts damage, so that's pretty high, not gonna lie. That's like around 3500 or something. When an enemy is defeated by a slash, shifts the target to the nearest surrounding enemy to continue the slash, increases the remaining slash count by 1. If the final slash fails to defeat the enemy and the enemy tile is deployable, move to that tile, so teleport basically. Otherwise, return to the original position, then attack plus 300% and gain 60% physical and arts dodge. So this is insanely broken for many reasons, and most notably for the relics. Chen is a unit that benefits a lot from IS relics. Particularly, she benefits from all the dodge relics, and I keep on saying the dodge relics are really not that good because operators that dodge are usually not that great, right? Ambushes are okay, like Mizuki and Ascalon are relatively okay, but the thing is they also have less aggro, so they are less likely to activate their dodge, and then they are also less likely to activate relics. This one has 60% physical and arts dodge, and also has the normal aggro. So this is one of the units that actually works the best with dodge relics. It's a bit annoying that the dodge only procs after the skill ends, but regardless, if your attack is plus 300% and you also get, for example, the return activated, you're gonna be able to see some funny numbers for sure. The earliest slashes are also gonna be able to benefit from Spinach in Wrath of Syracusans, but most importantly, she redeploys. So the thing is, the redeployments, even though it's a redeployment, so it should work with anything that says on deployment, the thing is, she's still considered during her skill while using S2, so she's unfortunately not gonna benefit from relics that says on deployment gain a certain amount of SP. Still, she's still gonna be able to benefit from, for example, convalescent cards or this kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of relics that she can benefit from. This plus the fact that the skill actually does already quite a lot of damage, because we're talking about 10 slashes that deal like 3500 damage. So that's already around like 30,000 damage from in its base form. Of course, we have to take the resistance into account, but that's still very good. By the way, this is absolutely insane for a new player. So the only thing I don't know about this skill is whether it's able to attack aerial units or not. I assume if this works like Chen S3, because the skills are very similar, it doesn't, but this is something that is really missing there, unfortunately. Other than that, this skill seems absolutely insane, benefits from a lot of things, deals a lot of damage, has a very, very low SP cost, so you can basically spam it, right? Also not mentioning the fact that with only 6 initial SP, so like goldish coin, you can already use the skill on deployment, so that's absolutely insane. Yeah, I think this skill is extremely good and is definitely gonna get played for sure. This is the kind of skill that also benefits a lot from buffers. Any skill that has a very high multiplier on a unit that has not a lot of attack is extremely good on buffers usually. So anyway, on to the third skill. So skill 3 is auto recovery, manual activation, 18 initial SP, 25 SP cost, lasts 20 seconds, unleashes a sword key that changes its direction, deals arts damage equal to 6% of current HP of enemies it pierces through, deals at least 580% of attack as arts damage. There is something here I don't know. It says deals arts damage equal to 6% of current HP of enemies. So does that mean we have to take the resistance into account? I am not sure, because is it 6% reduced by the resistance, or is it 6% period? Because if it's 6% period, this is insane. This is absolutely insane. This is one of the only unit that is able to deal percentage damage on the enemy. Actually, it is the only unit. So I'm not sure if the resistance has to be taken into account or not. If it doesn't have to be taken into account, then this is absolutely insane. Attack range expands, so I don't know about the expansion, unfortunately. Each attack deals 3 instances of arts damage equal to 210% of attack up to 3 to 4 ground enemies. This S3 is very similar to Viviana S3, except that instead of having more defense, she has that sword key that actually resembles a dragon that deals percentage damage. So as you saw in the live stream, this dragon can bounce on walls, so I'm not sure if there's a definite order. I think it bounces to the right, but I'm actually not sure about this. We will have to test it out. And again, two questions. Is the percentage damage reduced by resistance? And can this dragon hit air? We always have this question, can this unit hit air? This would be the first Artguard that is able to attack air, and that would be actually a game changer in my opinion. I think we really need to know this information. Unfortunately, we don't have it. Hopefully she can, because the wording seems a bit dubious, right? Because she says attack range expands, each attack deals 3 instances to ground enemies. Why does it say ground enemies? Like, this is a Artguard. Of course she attacks ground enemies. This makes me think that the dragon she unleashes actually can attack every unit. So if it can attack every unit, including aerial units, she deals at least 580% attack as arts damage. I would say it's around 4000 damage, which is pretty good, right? This is actually pretty good, even if it's only 1 instance of damage, but again, the dragon can bounce on walls and stuff. So I don't know, maybe in Remnant of Consciousness, where there are a lot of aerial units, it can be relevant. I'm not sure. I don't think 4000 is enough to kill most aerial units. Still, we would need to test it out. Maybe I'm completely wrong and this unit can actually not attack aerial enemies at all, but I don't know, the wording of this seems pretty weird. Still, I think the second skill is extremely good. The second skill seems extremely powerful. There are a lot of synergy with this. I think every unit that says can be redeployed and stuff is actually very powerful. Not only that, the launches 10 slashes also means she's invincible while the skill is active, much like the Gegenbrecher, the first gen, and Amiya of course. So she's invincible during the slash. She then gets physical and arts dodge, and she also has HP recovery. So this is a very, very tanky unit, oddly enough. A very tanky unit that also deals a lot of damage. So yeah, I think she's gonna get played for sure. There are a lot of stages where being able to attack multiple enemies could be very interesting. Like she could attack, for example, Wang's balls if you're going for the third ending in Night 6. I feel like this could be a very interesting application. And speaking about Wang, here he is. So the Big Daddy, the 6-star Trap Master Specialist, so the third one after Dorothy and Ella. So trait, can use traps to assist in combat, but traps can be placed on tiles already occupied by an enemy.
Are you sure about that?
Talent 1 is can deploy up to 6 chess pieces, can store up to 7. When chess pieces are deployed on adjacent 4 tiles of another chess piece, they activate each other. Enemies trigger their effects when entering the tiles when an activated chess piece is deployed. Each time a chess piece is manually deployed, deploys an extra chess piece on the adjacent 4 tiles, up to 9 pieces. The extra chess piece can be placed on undeployable tiles and prioritize deployment on enemy occupied undeployable tiles. So you can see already that this unit completely bypasses the traps cannot be placed on tiles already occupied by an enemy drawback, right? Because he is actually able to deploy traps on tiles that are occupied by enemies. So talent 2 is for each chess piece on the continuous straight line where a chess piece is activated, all pieces on the straight line deal 10% increased damage and ignore 9 resistance, max 3 stacks, so that's 27 resistance ignore. So skill 1 is auto recovery. Passive effect, when a chess piece is triggered, slows the target. The target takes 135% of attack as arts damage every second for 6.5 seconds. That's a lot of damage. That's a fuck ton of damage. 135% of attack as arts damage for 6.5 seconds? That's around like 1000 damage as arts damage. That's insane. Like for one chess piece, that's around like, I don't know, like 6000 damage as arts damage. So active immediately gains 2 chess pieces every 16 seconds. Gotcha. Skill 2, auto recovery. Auto, again, 15 SP cost, and active immediately gain 2 chess pieces. Passive effect, when chess pieces are triggered, deal 580% of attack as arts damage to enemies within a 3-tile range on both sides along the vertical and horizontal straight lines. So this is basically like Dorothy's S3, but it's on an S2, and it also triggers through 1 more tile, because Dorothy is only 2 tiles, 2 vertical and horizontal tiles. This is 3, and decreases their movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds. Alright, so S1 slows and S2 reduces movement speed. Interesting. And S3 is a bit different because it actually has an active effect, so 38 initial SP and 50 SP cost. Okay. Passive, chess pieces have expanded trigger range and attack range. Expanded trigger range. I think this is the only trap master that works this way. Maybe there's Wolfenite, I think, has something like this. And deal 380% of attack as arts damage. Active effect, stops attacking. Attack range expands. Immediately gain 8 chess pieces, then prioritizes deploying chess pieces exceeding the storage cap onto tiles occupied by enemies within attack range. When manually deploying chess pieces within attack range, they can be placed on tiles occupied by enemies. Can deploy up to 3 additional pieces exceeding talent's 1 deployment limit limit and consumes an equal amount of ammo. Skill activation grants 20 ammo. The skill ends when manually deactivated or when all chest pieces are depleted. Any remaining ammo is converted back into chest pieces. So this skill in IS seems particularly insane for many reasons. First, I believe the increased attack range not only is in a line but is also in a square around it, so that's already very good. Second, this is an ammo skill, so it works a lot with ammo-based relics in IS-6, and ammo-based relics are actually very strong. And third, if I'm understanding this correctly, you can basically keep on deploying chest pieces to deal 1 chestillion damage to enemies as long as you have ammo. So basically you gain 20 more chest pieces that you can deploy wherever you want, and they will each deal 380% of attackers' arts damage. So when taking this into account with the resistance signal, I think this unit is extremely good. This is a very interesting Trapmaster because I didn't mention anything about this, but I think you already saw it. This is not your regular Trapmaster, not only because you can deploy your bombs on enemies directly, but also because Trapmasters deal physical damage, and this is the only Trapmaster that is able to deal arts damage. Not only that, but not a lot of specialists can actually deal arts damage. For example, pullers can deal arts damage when they pull with their module. Ascalon has some arts damage with a passive, but that's about it. Like, not a lot of specialists have arts damage, and this is an arts damage based specialist, so this has a very interesting niche. For example, if you have a lot of arts damage in IS with Brilliance, Lament, this kind of stuff, and you get offered the specialist vouchers and you have a lot of hope, and instead of simply skipping because you would tell yourself, no, I don't need a specialist right now, I need something like a caster, you would tell yourself, oh no, I can recruit Wang. I think this unit is very interesting for many reasons. Like, all 3 skills are pretty interesting. The third one is the damage based, right? You only use the third one when you want damage. So for example, against the bosses that you can burst because you have the resistance signal, you have all the chest pieces you can deploy directly on the boss. But the 2 other skills are also very interesting. The S1 that deals damage over time for 6 seconds is actually very interesting for the Lynx event based enemies, right? And the S2 is also very interesting because it's reduced movement speed, so it works on bosses that have slow immunity, because movement speed reduction is not the same thing as slow. So think about Aikthionir, for example, in IS-4, that you can slow, but you can reduce the movement speed up. So you would use the S1 for the damage over time, you would use the S2 for the movement speed reduction in case the enemy resists slow, and you would use the S3 for pure damage. I think all 3 skills are very good. I've seen people saying, yeah, Dorothy is already dead because of him. No, keep in mind Dorothy has the root, and the root is still extremely good for a lot of cases. I think Wang certainly has a niche. Trapmaster that is able to deal a lot of arts damage could be very interesting. I don't think it's a unit you want to recruit 24/7 though, because oddly enough, I think in terms of arts damage, there are actually much better candidates, right? But still, that is a unit that is actually pretty versatile. I think if you have arts damage and maybe, for example, ammo-based relics, and you get offered a specialist, usually you would pick Ella, but in this case, if you have arts damage, maybe you can pick Wang. The main issue I can see is definitely the very high SP cost on S3. I can't remember the last time we had a unit that had 50 SP cost. That's actually pretty high. So yeah, I think it's a very good unit. Probably not the kind of unit you want to recruit in every run, but still definitely someone that you can consider every time you get offered a specialist. The main issue is that he's a specialist, right? There are so many good specialists. This is actually becoming a meme. You have Ascalon, you have Exucii Alter, you have Mizuki, you have Ella, you have Yato Alter, you have Texas Alter, you have Ethan. When you recruit a specialist, you really have to ask yourself, what do I have? Who can benefit the most from what I have? And what do I need? So in a lot of cases, you won't need Wang, right? In a lot of cases, you won't need more arts damage because I don't know, maybe you're going for a physical damage run. Still, if you're going, for example, for tactical destruction and you get offered a lot of arts damage, well, you already have a tactical destruction, so you're already recruiting a lot of casters, a lot of specialists. So this could definitely be a good unit to consider. Alright, and now we have the modules. So these are the regular modules, and we got the modules for primal defenders. So this is for you: trade upgrade when blocking enemies, elemental injury inflicted by this unit plus 15%, okay, sure. Talent upgrade when there are at least 2 operators on the field, recovers 1.5% max HP as both HP and the elemental injury per second when there are at least 4 operators on the field. This unit deals plus 14% arts damage to targets under the burst effect from burn damage. So basically this got reduced to 2 and there's now an additional effect. I think this is alright, but at the same time it's not outrageous because U is not a damage dealer. U is mostly an enabler for things like, for example, Lapland Alter. So I think this is alright, but at the same time it's really not that great. If If it had been elemental damage instead of arts damage, it certainly would have been much better. But in this case, I mean, it helps Yu when he's alone, which is really not something you want. Like, Yu is not supposed to be played alone. He's supposed to be played with things like Blaze Altar, Lapland Altar, you know, this kind of stuff. So I don't know, it's kind of weird. I think this is okay-ish, but it's definitely not what is gonna make Yu absolutely broken for sure. So this is just an alright-ish module, I would say. Philae gets the same trait upgrade. Talent is receives minus 20% elemental injury, recovers 2 SP when receiving necrosis damage. So Philae was released in a weird state because her talent was made to resist necrosis, but at the same time, if she wasn't able to resist necrosis, then she would lose all SP from the necrosis burst, right? So I don't know if going from minus 12 to minus 20 will help her resist this. Definitely yes, for sure. But at the same time, do you still want to recruit Philae? Like, Philae is kind of whatever, I would say. There's a lot of much better defenders now. So I don't think this is good enough, particularly for necrosis, right? There are so many good necrosis applicators, like there's Virtuosa, there's Logos, there's Nymph. I don't think you want to recruit Philae, but since Philae is a free-to-play unit, I suppose it's okay if you get her as a new player and then you upgrade the module, but at the same time, if you're a new player, you probably don't want to upgrade Philae's module. It's a weird state. I think it's an alright module. I think it's a good module, actually, but there are definitely much better priorities. So, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of whatever. Philae is kind of whatever. So, Cairn is a unit that hasn't not been yet released on Global, so I won't be talking too much about her. This is the same trait upgrade. When blocking enemies, blocked enemies receive 11% attack as nervous impairment, so it's more nervous impairment, sure. Cairn was a very much defensive unit, right? She increases her HP with the skills, but yeah, I don't know. Maybe this is pretty good. Again, since she's a defensive unit, increasing her attack makes her able to inflict paralysis easier, so maybe this is good. Feel free to tell me if Cairn is played for those that play her in the Chinese version. I'm actually not sure. I'm not gonna talk too much about her. So this is for Wang. Trait upgrade can use traps with a lower TP cost to assist in combat, but traps cannot be placed on tiles already occupied by an enemy. Haha. Good one. Trap deployment limit increases. Talents upgrade for each chess piece on the continuous straight line where a chess piece is activated. All pieces on the straight line deal plus 13% damage and ignore 12 resistance max 3 stacks. Jesus Christ. That's 36 res ignore under the right conditions. So again, this is very situational. Like the resistance ignore of this unit is very situational because you would have to basically hit enemies that are pretty much straight in front of you. I know the range of the pieces and the activation range is also increased, so it's not quote-unquote straight. Like probably the line on the left and the right also work, maybe the two lines, I'm not sure, but there's a lot of cases where you won't be able to deploy Wang in the right place. But again, if you can deploy him in the right place, that's 36 resistance ignore. 36 is gigantic. It's absolutely gigantic because the enemies that have the most resistance basically have 80. I think there's like one enemy in the game that has 90 or something. So 36 resistance ignores basically means that you almost double the damage on this enemy. So this is absolutely insane. So yeah, again, in teams when you actually want a lot of arts damage, this is absolutely insane. But if you don't need arts damage, then it's just a good unit, right? Like, let's just say it's a good unit. So Chen's upgrade. Trait upgrade is plus 8 attack speed when not blocking an enemy. That's good because Chen seems to not be wanting to block an enemy. I mean, I know she has dodge. Still, the S3 increases her range. The S2 kills enemies that are not in her range. So yeah, not blocking is actually something that you want to do. Talent upgrade. When not being damaged, randomly recovers a certain amount of HP. So this goes from 30 and 160 to 50 and 200% of attack and dodges the next physical of odds damage. I mean, this is at least a minimum of 50%. So it's a huge increase from the minimum that was 30% because 50% is with the plus 60 attack is at least something like 350 HP, right? So that's much better than the 200 or 250 that was before. But I don't know, I really hate like the fact that this is RNG like that. Why is it not simply like 100% of attack? This is so weird. Anyway, Ju, so the Besieger gets trait upgrade when attacking a heavy enemy, blah blah blah, attack increase to 115%. When attacking targets with HP less than half damage plus 12%. When dealing lethal damage, leaves the enemy 1 HP, inflict critically wounded. Okay, so just a 12% more attack, sure. Okay, this is alright, nothing worth mentioning there. Alright, and finally we have, okay, let's talk about the reclamation algorithm module first. Even though I am on day 370 of reclamation algorithm, I am still very
shit at the game, so I won't talk too much about this. Trait upgrade in reclamation algorithm, allied unit takes minus 100% damage from environmental effects. So this seems absolutely insane for environments that deal damage over time, for example the sunny days and stuff. This gives immunity to environmental damage, so this is insane. First and foremost, self-attack plus 60% and recovers 1 SP per second. So this trait upgrade alone is insane because immunity to environmental damage is insane. And talent upgrade at level 3 is when attacking enemies with more than 80% HP, Passenger will deal 20% increased damage to them for 3 seconds, so it's not only a one instant thing. In RA, every 10 seconds selects 5 targets on the field to strike with lightning. Densely packed targets are more likely to be targeted, dealing 500% of attacker's arts damage to all units within the area and gaining vision of that area for 12 seconds. Allied units struck by a lightning gain 2 SP. So something I'm not sure about, he says dealing 500% of attacker's arts damage to all units. Does that also mean allied units? Does that mean allied units take like 500% attack of passengers as arts damage? I'm not sure. That seems pretty weird. So regardless of that, if only enemy units get hit, this is absolutely insane. Like 500% for free as arts damage every 10 seconds is insane. Gaining vision is insane. Self-attack plus 60% is insane. Dealing 20% more damage to enemies that have more than 80% HP is insane, because this also works with this, right? Environmental effect immunity is insane. So yeah, this module is absolutely insane. Reclamation algorithm 2 is gonna drop soon on CN, so I expect Passenger to be used pretty much everywhere simply because of the environmental effects immunity, right? Only this is insane. And then you add all of this shit, and then you add the attack plus 90, and then you... Anyway, so let's talk about what is actually the main event there. Irene. So Irene is getting an IS module. So trait upgrade is already very powerful. In IS, redeployment time minus 60% and immediately gains 8 SP upon deployment. So for those wondering, 8 SP is the difference between the initial SP of S3 and the SP cost. It's 16 and 24, so it's exactly 8. And the talent upgrade, bear with me because it's very, very convoluted. Physical damage has a 50% chance to ignore 50% defense, chance increase to 100% against aerial units, so this is the base talent, right? And in integrated strategies, aerial enemies within skill range take plus 140% physical damage. Just as a reminder, enemies that she levitates are considered aerial, and when deploying operators within skill range, levitates ground enemies within for 3 seconds. This effect remains active after this unit retreats. So this effect remains active even after Irene retreats. So she has a lingering effect even after she retreats, pretty much like in S. When enemies within skill range exit their levitated state, if deployment conditions are met, Irene in the deployment waiting zone immediately deploys to the original position and activate her skill. DP is not consumed. So basically it would work like that. You would deploy in S the first time, you would use S3, you would remove in S, and then every 26 to 28 seconds, depending on if you have the, I think, pot 3 on her or not, you would deploy a unit like a gravel that would make enemy units enter levitate, and when the levitate is over, Irene would automatically be deployed and use her S3, and then you would repeat the cycle. So basically you have a quote-unquote fast redeployment Irene that will deal increased damage to enemies, because again, enemies are considered aerial enemies when she uses her S3. Unfortunately, this doesn't work on most bosses, and that also has a lingering effect that will allow you to levitate any enemy within range. So there are so many things to say there. First of all, having a unit that has minus 60% redeployment time is already quite broken, because redeployment time is easily the most powerful stat in the game. If you have played IS4 and you have used that one for Dattle that reduces redeployment time by 30%, you would know this. Redeployment time as a stat is insanely broken. Irene that will deal increased damage is very good, but not only that, keep in mind that you can simply deploy a unit, even if Irene is not able to be redeployed, just to levitate enemies. Why would you do that? Well, there are several reasons, but the main reason is that this would activate your Angelina's alpha module, for example. So far, it's pretty interesting because I had this discussion with Dr. Rafik on my Discord, and it's true that basically all alpha module in integrated strategy work together, maybe besides, for example, Calcit. Mizuki is able to shift enemies, Angelina and Irene are able to levitate enemies, so these all benefit from Angelina. Hureyak is also able to levitate. Levitating means Irene deals more damage, and even Schreier Alter works in this because Schreier Alter reduces the redeployment time of the unit with the lowest redeployment time. So you would reduce the cooldown of either your fast redeploy operator or Irene. So under the right conditions, you could have a very spammable fast redeploy operator or Irene to be able to spam this whole thing. They seem to be pushing the synergy a lot, and that seems very interesting for what's upcoming in the future. Are they gonna release more synergy about this, or are they gonna do something else? Because so far I can see the vision. I can absolutely see the vision of this. And the thing is, even if you completely forget about this and you only recruit Irene because of the trait upgrade and the talent upgrade, she's already an extremely powerful unit as a standalone unit. Again, minus 60% redeployment time, able to use S3 automatically on deployment, lingering effect that will make a zone on the field a levitate zone, quote unquote. Yeah, that's already pretty good. I can see Irene being pretty good and taken a lot. This also helps that there are some very usually bad relics, levitating relics in IS, but that could benefit a lot from Irene right now. So yeah, a lot of synergies, a lot of damage, very useful lingering effect. I think Irene is gonna get played. Now the question is she gonna get played as a standalone unit, or do you want the whole quote-unquote levitation package? I am not sure about this. We would have to test it out, but I feel Irene has pretty much the same potential as Archetto, I would say. And I'm not even kidding, because the thing with Archetto is that Archetto is not only a good unit for herself, she's also a good unit for every offensive recovery operators. And that's the same thing with Irene. Irene is not only a good unit for herself, she's also a good unit for every fast redeployment operator or operators that can redeploy. For example, Monster, or for example, Old Pianist. Of course, I didn't even mention the obvious things like if you have a Spinach or if you have Wrath of Siracusan, because that's obvious, right? I feel every unit that can redeploy, or every unit that has a low redeployment cooldown like Gravel, like Ines, all of this package could help Irene a lot. And that also means that every future operator that has a redeployment in her kit, like for example the new Chen, or that has a lower redeployment cooldown like a fast redeploy or an agent or maybe a new archetype in the future, who knows, could be used in tandem with Irene. And that's really good because that makes her quote unquote future proof. So anyway guys, this is all I had to say for the new units. Sorry for all the yapping, there was so many things to say about this, particularly for Irene. I actually can't wait to play this. She's now easily the unit I'm waiting for the most. I know we already have her, but I'm waiting for the module obviously, so I can't wait to be in 6 months in the future to try her. So if you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.